In the news tonight, Jordan condemns a terrorist attack in Beirut that killed former Minister Mohammed Shatah and 5 others, and former Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri blames Hezbollah for the killing. South Sudan's neighbors meeting in Nairobi say they would not accept any attempt to overthrow the president and his democratically elected government and welcome an immediate ceasefire commitment. And 2 Russian cosmonauts are closing out the year in orbit with a spacewalk out of the International Space Station to install equipment on the hull of the Zvezda command module. Good evening and welcome to a new edition of the news. Here are the details. Jordan condemned the terrorist attack on Beirut today that targeted former Minister Mohammed Shatah and 5 other people, including Shatah's bodyguard. Minister of State for Media Affairs Mohammed al-Momeni said the attack on Lebanon is a grave threat to the security and stability of the region and the entire world. He reiterated Jordan's position that denounces all forms and sources of terrorism and expressed the kingdom's solidarity with Lebanon in confronting security and unity challenges. 5 other people were killed in the attack and at least 70 were injured. Former Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri accused Hezbollah of involvement in the killing of Shatah, his political advisor, saying the attack is a new message of terrorism. Here's more.
It was a powerful car bomb that tore through a business district in the center of the Lebanese capital. The blast, which killed 6 people and wounded more than 70 others, set cars ablaze, shredded trees and shattered windows, and damaged restaurants, coffee shops and offices in downtown Beirut area. The bomb targeted the car of Mohammed Shatah, a former finance minister and a senior advisor to former Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri. The bombing in the capital recalled a string of assassinations of members of the anti-Syrian Hariri camp between 2004 and 2008, the biggest of which was the massive suicide bombing in 2005 in downtown Beirut.
The killer is the same. Him and his Lebanese allies from Daraa to Aleppo to Damascus to all Syria. The same killer is targeting the heroes of Lebanon from October 2004 till today. They killed Mohammed Shatah, our martyr hero.
Shatah, a Sunni Muslim who was also an opposition figure, opposed Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, was on his way to attend a meeting when the explosion went off. The former minister served as ambassador of Lebanon to the US from 1997 to 2000 and was also a critic of Lebanon's Shiite Hezbollah. In a message on his Twitter account less than an hour before the blast, Shatah accused the group of trying to take control of the country. Shatah's killing occurred 3 weeks before the long-delayed opening of a trial of 5 Hezbollah suspects indicted for the 2005 bombing, which killed former Prime Minister Rafiq al-Hariri and 21 others.
The target is Lebanon, its institution, its president, not only the forces of the Cedars Revolution, but also the whole image of this country, a convivial country, a country of democracy. And the accused is the one who is going to be in front of the tribunal in The Hague next month.
Lebanon, which has been drawn into neighboring Syria's conflict, is feared to be falling into further turmoil after a series of sectarian bombings amid Shiites and Sunni over the past year. Luay Balqar for the news at 10.
Representative of the Syrian National Council in Russia said the group opposes taking part in Geneva II peace talks next month in the current climate. The conference is due to begin on January 22nd. And world powers, particularly the United States and Russia, have been working to bring the opposition and the Syrian government to the negotiations to agree on a transitional government to bring Syria out of the conflict. However, the SNC representative Mahmoud al-Hamza, speaking in Moscow, said under the current situation, holding the Geneva II is not reasonable because there are certain conditions that have not been met. Also on Tuesday, Syria's opposition coalition said it would not attend the Geneva meeting if Syrian President Bashar al-Assad's forces continued a fierce air raid campaign on the northern city of Aleppo. Syrian authorities say they are battling rebels in control of parts of the city, but rights groups have condemned the bombardments as indiscriminate. Meanwhile, the Syrian army ambushed Islamist fighters in the Qalamun mountains north of Damascus, leaving as many as 60 people dead. Syrian state television showed footage of dozens of bodies lying in a mountainous area with machine guns and rocket-propelled grenades next to them. The television reported that the army tracked the fighters overnight and ambushed them on their way to the town of Jayrud, 20 kilometers southeast of Yabrut. Elsewhere in Aleppo, more than 300 people are reported to have been killed in a week of air raids. Muslim Brotherhood supporters and police clashed across Egypt today, leaving at least 3 dead, 1 in the city of Damietta, another in Minya, and a third in Cairo. A number of police officers were also injured in the clashes. In Cairo, 3 armored vans fired tear gas at the gates of Cairo's Al-Azhar University campus, where students staged a protest to support the Muslim Brotherhood. Meanwhile, and in a new wave of arrests, security forces detained at least 265 Brotherhood supporters nationwide, among them women. The government has issued a new round of harsher warnings against anyone taking part in protests in support of the Brotherhood, saying they will be punished under terrorism laws. On Wednesday, the Egyptian government declared the Muslim Brotherhood a terrorist organization following the killing of 16 people in an attack on a police station. A Turkish court blocked a government attempt to force police to disclose investigations to their superiors, setting back Prime Minister Tayyip Erdogan's efforts to manage fallout from a high-level corruption scandal. The state prosecutor said the corruption and bribery investigation has been blocked and that he has received pressure from both the chief prosecutor's office and the police. Last week, police detained dozens of people, among them the sons of the interior minister and 2 other cabinet members, after months of graft probes. The investigation caused a serious political crisis for Erdogan's government and prompted a cabinet reshuffle following the resignation of 3 ministers who face allegations of bribery. The Turkish lira hit a record low, while stocks were at their weakest in 17 months, and the country's debt insurance costs jumped to an 18-month high. South Sudan's neighbors meeting in Nairobi said they would not accept any attempt to overthrow President Salva Kiir and his democratically elected government. In a communique issued at the State House in Nairobi, where regional leaders met today, the heads of state welcomed a commitment by the South Sudan government for an immediate ceasefire after 13 days of fighting. The members of the Intergovernmental Authority on Development, IGAD, went on to say if the South Sudan rebel leader Riek Machar did not also call a ceasefire, they would take further measures. The leaders said a military solution had little chance of succeeding in South Sudan.
The commitment by the government of the Republic of South Sudan to an immediate cessation of hostilities and called upon Dr. Riek Machar and other parties to make similar commitments. 3, determined that if hostilities do not cease within 4 days of this communique, the summit will consider taking further measures. Further condemns the violent escalation of conflict in South Sudan and calls on all parties to refrain from steps that will inflame the conflict further, particularly along ethnic and sectarian lines, and particularly strongly condemns the bankrupt and opportunistic ideology of ethnic and religious sectarianism.
After thousands were left homeless over Christmas in the south of Britain due to torrential rains, the storms have been moving further north. Winds of more than 160 kilometers per hour have been reported, sparking fears of flooding and yet more power cuts across the country. The Meteorology Office issued a severe weather warning of high winds and heavy rains and predicted disruption to transport and power supplies in areas under the amber warning. During a visit to one of the worst affected areas of Yalding in the south of England, Prime Minister David Cameron said that while there is so much that needs to be fixed now, lessons should be learned from these floods.
There are a lot of things that need to be fixed. We need the insurance companies to get round so the loss adjusters can help householders. We need the council to get round with skips so people can get their carpets and their furniture removed. We need to get the power back on. And then we need to learn the lessons. We are seeing these events take place more often. Now, the government is spending more on flood defences over the next 4 years than over the last 4 years. There's a lot of flood defences being built.
In Afghanistan, at least 3 foreign soldiers were killed when a suspected suicide bomber attacked a foreign military convoy on the eastern outskirts of the capital, Kabul. ISAF put the death toll at 3 service members and gave no more details. The Taliban claimed responsibility for the attack, which comes as President Hamid Karzai deliberates over an agreement allowing U.S. forces to stay in the country beyond 2014. Many Afghans, including a gathering of 3,000 tribal leaders and other prominent people, have urged Karzai to sign the U.S. pact quickly as they worry about security after 2014. 2 Russian cosmonauts are closing out the year in orbit with a spacewalk out of the International Space Station to install photographic and scientific equipment on the hull of the Zvezda command module. Oleg Kotov and Sergei Ryanzinsky began a planned 7-hour spacewalk, the third in less than a week for the station's 6-man crew. The first items on the agenda are to install a pair of high-fidelity cameras to beam down Earth views. Once the cameras are installed, the cosmonauts will turn their attention to installing a new space physics experiment and jetsoning 2 others that have run their course. They also plan to attach a new payload support boom.
Or the equipment others, rather. Let's leave them connected for the time being.
A 16-year-old student in Phoenix High School has been named one of the 10 smartest kids in the world. Not only that, he has also become the youngest participant in semiconductor chip maker Intel's internship program. Meet the whiz kid.
This is great.
Meet Joe Hootie. He's the engineering whiz kid who spoke with President Obama last year at the White House Science Fair.
We're almost there. Oh!
Marshmallows flew across the room thanks to Hootie's homemade air cannon.
It came out pretty fast.
Now 16 years old, Hootie has been hired as an intern at Intel, usually reserved for outstanding college students.
You shot yourself with the marshmallow?
He's the youngest person to ever secure the role. According to Intel, he'll be working in the New Devices Group Product Development Department. Demonstrating the tools of the trade, Hootie has made Arduino microcontroller boards and a solar-powered computer for another science fair. It's no surprise he's one of the 10 smartest kids in the world, according to Brilliant.org.
In tennis and the World Championship in Abu Dhabi, Serbia's Novak Djokovic made it to the finals after beating Jo-Wilfried Tsonga of France in the semi-final. Tsonga used his power to good effect throughout the match, but Djokovic varied his shots and pace and never seemed to be working flat out. With his 7-6, 6-3 victory, Djokovic will next face David Ferrer of Spain in the finals tomorrow. In an earlier match, third-ranked David Ferrer defeated world #1 and Spanish compatriot Rafael Nadal. While Nadal showed flashes of brilliance, he could not overcome the determination of Ferrer, who produced some great rallies, net play and aces. That all ended with Ferrer's 2-set victory of 6-4, 6-4. And in Thailand, sports meet fashion. The 2 top tennis players in the world, Serena Williams and Victoria Azarenka, walked down the ramp in a fashion show dubbed Made in Thailand night with Serena and Victoria. The celebrity fashion show comes a day before their exhibition match. The Hua Hin, a tennis exhibition, which started 4 years ago as an exhibition game in women's tennis, held at the start of the year. This will be Azarenka's third time in the tournament, while Williams will be playing for the first time. After Thailand, they will fly to Australia to participate in the 2014 Brisbane International and subsequently to the Australian Open. And finally, a quick look at the weather forecast. Continues to be cold tonight with southeasterly moderate winds and possible frost formation in the hilly areas and the Badia. Tomorrow, similar conditions prevail with rain showers and hail expected in the southern region, extending to other parts of the kingdom. Winds will be southwesterly moderate to brisk. In the Gulf of Aqaba, it will be fair during the day tomorrow with possible rain in the afternoon, while winds will be southerly moderate to brisk and the seas slightly high. Here now is a look at temperatures forecast for tonight and tomorrow. And to close, here's a reminder of the day's top stories. Jordan condemns a terrorist attack in Beirut that killed former Minister Mohammed Shatah and 5 others, and former Prime Minister Saad al-Hariri blames Hezbollah for the killing. South Sudan's neighbors meeting in Nairobi say they would not accept any attempt to overthrow the president and his democratically elected government and welcome an immediate ceasefire commitment. And 2 Russian cosmonauts are closing out the year in orbit with a spacewalk out of the International Space Station to install equipment on the hull of the Zvezda command module. And with this, we come to the end of this edition of the news. I'm Alia Tuqan. Thank you for joining us. Have a good night, and I'll see you tomorrow.